Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for the first day of September 2015. What's happening in the tropics? Well, a lot in the Pacific, but nothing really close to land areas. And in the Atlantic Basin, after yesterday's excitement, for the lack of a better word, of Fred passing through the Cape Verdes, kind of exciting for them. Hopefully there wasn't any significant damage. And certainly hopefully no loss of life, but it was very interesting from a meteorological perspective and in hurricane history that Fred, only the second time that we can see in the records that a system has passed through the Cape Verde Islands as a hurricane. The last time was in 1892, according to records dating back. There was no satellites, obviously. There were only ship reports and other observations, so it could have happened afterwards, but in the satellite era, certainly we know that it has not happened. So Fred, a unique event. This X here, the yellow X near the northeast Gulf, is the leftover remnants of what was Erica, which was supposed to be, according to some computer models, right about in here today as a powerful hurricane, and of course it didn't do that. Instead, it kind of meandered around and came up through here, and now it's sitting off the coast of Florida. And as you can see from the satellite picture here, kind of a little bit of a comma shape to it, maybe some weak circulation associated with it at the surface, and that'll pretty much be about it. This will move inland over Florida and give some of this region more heavy rainfall. In the western Gulf, we do have an area of disturbed weather sitting over very warm water, but the convergence, the air coming together, and other factors just not there. The ingredients aren't there for this to develop right now. And you can see even on the radar, it's just a large discombobulated mess. Very heavy rain for sure over parts of Houston, Galveston, but this doesn't look like it's going to develop into anything tropical in nature, even though it feels tropical outside. Again, this is the leftovers of Erica, and maybe up the I-4 corridor towards Orlando here, getting in on the rain action. But I think it's going to be more up along I-75 towards Lake City, and then the I-10 region, maybe from Jacksonville eventually as this moves north and east. This entire area could get some pretty heavy rain out of this, and the occasional strong thunderstorm as that instability kicks in each afternoon as these remnant storms move across the Sunshine State. So the rest of the season ahead, we're almost to the peak. Around September 10th is the climatological peak of the season. So as we start the month, let's kind of see where things are. We don't have much in the way of Saharan air, and what's out there is fairly weak. And the Saharan air layer in the first part of the season can be an overwhelming factor that prevents things from developing, tropical waves being those things as they come off Africa. But right now the Saharan air layer pretty weak and probably won't be much of a factor through the month of September. What is a factor is the upper level winds, and I mean this is just crazy. Let me show you what's what. This is the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico here, Hispaniola, Cuba, and then here's Florida. And this blue area that I have drawn in shows very strong upper level winds coming across the deep tropics now. And all of this region is in this sort of cyclonic flow, which is not conducive for development. Not only do you have strong upper level winds, but the air is sinking, and we call that subsidence. There's no large scale rising going on, so the convective activity is just limited to basically nothing. And anything that would try to develop coming off Africa will run headstrong into this and not develop at all. I think the only thing that we could sort of look for that might happen in the month of September is you get one of these tropical waves coming through at a time when the pattern down here reverses for a few days, and then that system is able to survive until the Northwest Caribbean, or especially the southern Gulf of Mexico, which this region right through here, even in an El Nino year, typically is immune to the strong upper level winds. You get troughs that'll dig in from time to time and create a band of upper level winds that are not favorable. But as you can see, you might just have this one area where something can slide in and develop the remnants of Erica just didn't make it. The timing wasn't there. Outside of that, it's probably going to be a fairly quiet second half to the hurricane season. Maybe a few more named storms and another hurricane thrown in, but nothing hyper busy with the pattern that's in place. And even looking at the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is a time of favorability in the tropics for convective activity, right now it's here in what we call the null phase, meaning that it's basically indiscernible anywhere around the globe. There are no large-scale areas of upward motion going on. And in September, you really don't need a lot of that anyway globally. The tropics are just going to be busy naturally. But in the Atlantic Basin, as I showed you, we're definitely in a period where the MJO is not helping out at all. So an enhancement of it, where you do have the 200 millibar level more favorable, and if I show you this graphic again, basically that means that this would kind of reverse. You would sort of close off this trough a little bit, make it weaker, and replace it with a large area of high pressure in the atmosphere so that thunderstorms can go up and not be sheared off. And this tells us that there might be just a little bit of an amplification in the phases that favor the Western Hemisphere. All right, so we'll have to see about that. The GFS shows it, and surprisingly, the Euro is in pretty good agreement with the GFS. Let me go back and show you. Here's the Global Forecast System, or GFS, and the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, or the ECMWF, commonly referred to as the Euro. Both of those showing as we get later on in the month, about mid-month or so. This goes out to the 15th. So I would say anytime about the 10th on, maybe conditions over here in the western part of the Atlantic Basin become a little bit more favorable. And then we just have to see if a tropical wave can make it in here and develop into something. So there you go. Quiet times ahead for a little while after Fred dissipates, and then we shall see what happens towards the second third of September. But I think the first third is going to be fairly quiet. All right? So that's it for me for the week, unless something else pops up. Again, anything happening in the Pacific is no threat to land, so we're not even really going to worry about it. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. Thanks as always for tuning in. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com and for Hurricane Pro in HD. I'll talk to you again next week.